Hey everybody, Courtney Atkinson here with the Dooryard Union. And as you know, this is a show every Wednesday where I meet with a badass entrepreneur. We tell stories about struggles, stories about accomplishments. And today I have this awesome guy with me, Steph Amensen from the HEC group. And so some of you may know Steph from Ashcroft.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when I met you back in the days when you were in the Green's Pop Shop strip mall. Maybe the first time I met you, we were doing a real estate transaction, and then I've come to know and like and adore you in all the years since that time. And in that time, you've begun to do some super crazy things, Steph. And so you've been in Lethbridge about 10 years, but why don't you back us up before that? How did you wind up doing what you're doing? Maybe start kind of in the beginning days of Steph.
Oh, so how far do you want to go back?
Well, how far do you want to go back?
Let's go back.
So, to the point where you think it matters and it's interesting. How about that?
Wow. Okay. Here's where it became interesting. So I decided after school that I studied to become a teacher. Would you imagine me as a teacher?
I can. Yeah, I totally can.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that'd be really interesting because they didn't.
No thanks.
So I'd gone down to Mexico with a girl. And we met some people down there that owned a school, and so they said, hey, if you're ever interested in coming down, going to teaching for a semester, teaching English, come on down. And so I did that. I went down in, I can't remember what year it was, way back in the 60s or something. I don't know. It was maybe 90s. And I taught down there. I was going to do one semester, and I stayed for 5 years.
Really? Where in Mexico?
Just south of Guadalajara, Mexico City.
Now, were you a native Spanish speaker?
No, man. I learned Spanish down there, and I moved down there. I lived with a bunch of people in one house, a bunch of teachers from all over the world, Ireland and U.S. And I wasn't learning any Spanish.
Okay.
And so the lady that owned the school said, "You know what? I could put you with a family, and they don't speak English, so you're going to have to." And I like to eat, as you can tell, right? So the first things I'm learning is how to eat, and so they moved into this family. And I'm with them for about 7 months, and every morning it's a struggle. I come downstairs and I'm like, Joe, and I'm like pointing at stuff and chickens, and I'm just sign language. But after a while, 4 or 5 months, right? I could come downstairs.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I can't understand how. But it's just the way the human brain works, right?
It's unbelievable, and then something clicks.
Yeah.
And then I remember the first time I drove, I dreamt in Spanish.
Wow.
And I woke up and I went, I can really do this. And about, a couple of weeks later, I come downstairs quietly, and they're inside the kitchen. This family I'm living with, they haven't said one English word to me in 6 months, and they're in the kitchen speaking in English.
To each other.
Yeah, they grew up in Los Angeles.
So they knew English all along.
They knew English all along. 6 months of poker face.
Were you living with these people?
Pissed. I wanted to move out because I remember moments. I'm sitting there and I'm going,
I'm so hungry.
I asked for 10 slices of ham, or asked for something like 10 slices of ham.
Yeah.
And the word in Spanish for ham is jamón.
Okay.
But I got it confused with the word jabón, which is soap.
Oh, nice.
So she takes out the soap bar and starts slicing it. Right? I'm like, how long do you put on the charade? Best poker faces ever. But I learned Spanish.
But they had stories for days, right?
Oh my gosh. They laughed. To this day, the father, he's passed away.
Yeah.
But to this day, it's like he's my brother. He lives in Tijuana, and the mom actually moved back to Guatemala. And she's
Are you still in contact with these folks, eh?
All, yeah. They were
That's awesome.
very, very instrumental in my life. Very cool people.
So how did you ever leave there, man? It sounds like a pretty awesome time of life.
Well, much like you're in Alberta right now, and at that time it was 93, 94, and the economy collapsed.
Okay.
And we think we have it rough here, but the economy collapsed. They wake up one morning and the president is gone, and there's $50 billion, $100 billion, I can't remember. I do remember the president's name was Carlos Salinas.
Okay.
And he left the country with all this money, and a new president comes in and goes, I have no money in the till. And so overnight, gas was $1 a liter, as an example. The next morning, $5 a liter.
Mm-hmm.
Overnight, I'm working for a bank at this time,
and
I'm teaching language and systems, and we had a parking lot that held 400 cars.
Yeah.
Within 3 months of the financial crisis, that parking lot was full, bumper to bumper, over 1,200 cars, people just coming to the bank, dropping off their keys. They can't make the payment because interest rates went from, at that time, 13 or 14% to 140.
Ooh.
So
From high to astronomical.
Astronomical, and literally, like, that meant every 8 months you had to pay off the principal in order just to keep up with the interest.
Mm-hmm.
So people would just show up with their keys, hand them in, and so I had a contract with the bank, and it was in pesos instead of U.S. dollars. That's number one mistake in my career. They asked me, "Do you want this contract in pesos or U.S. dollars?"
Local currency is best.
Local currency is the best. And I went from making $8,000 a month to making $80 a month, and not being able to feed myself. So I had gotten married, and my wife and I at the time, we everything into a red Chevy S10.
Mm-hmm.
I had bars welded on the back of it, and we drove all of our stuff back to Canada.
Really?
And we were broke. Like, I had a house in Mexico I was building. I put on a Visa card, paying 22%, right?
Which is probably a deal compared to some of the other interest rates, right?
And they moved back to Alberta in '95, and you're not old enough to remember '95, my friend. Come on. Yeah. But there were no jobs.
We're probably not that. There's probably not much age difference between us.
Yeah,
really.
I'm 71. How about you?
Yes.
I look great for 71.
I have the experience of a 60-year-old. Let's just say. So where did you move back to?
Edmonton.
Okay.
So I moved back to Edmonton, and I worked waitering.
Yeah.
I just took part-time jobs. I worked 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Saved up a bunch of money. Went back to Mexico and opened a business.
What? So what person in their right mind leaves, like, near financial ruin? Then you drive back down there in a red S10?
I took the S10 back down there, my friend. I came back. And
I love this.
worked
You
on-
had like a real passion for Mexico then.
I loved it, but what I loved about it is if you talk about entrepreneurs all the time.
Yeah.
And we talk about Canadians and Americans and entrepreneurs. And
Yeah.
no. Everybody in Mexico is an entrepreneur.
You mean like hustler, like
I mean,
you gotta know how to put food on the table.
This guy buys cucumbers in the morning.
Yeah.
He's peeling them in the morning, and he's showing up on a corner with bags, and he's putting the salt and the lime on it, and he doesn't know what his return is today, and he's got no bank lending him money. There's no microloan for this guy. That guy's an entrepreneur. And he goes home that night, and he works till he sells every one of those cucumbers.
Yeah.
Or jicama, or whatever. That guy's hustling.
Yeah.
And he starts the cycle all over again. Or that afternoon, he goes and he pulls up the taco stand, and he's selling tacos in the street corner, and everybody's got a side hustle in Mexico.
That's amazing to me. Don't you think that so many people in our society could learn so much from that?
Are we entitled here? Is that your question? Are we? You may be entitled here?
You may be reading into it
A little?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's things that we take for granted here.
Sure.
Employment insurance.
Yeah.
Workers' compensation. Job security. Severance pay.
Yeah.
Right? I know that in Alberta in the last 5 years we've seen layoffs like crazy. And they're not soft landings, but they're softer than other places in Mexico because they close the shop and bye.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that those things aren't good here.
Yeah.
They're wonderful parts of here, but it does create a culture of soft landing, of less consequences for.
I always say I want to be the kind of person that can wake up tomorrow morning and have nothing and still be able to make a paycheck by the end of that day.
That's. I agree.
Survival. I mean, and many people have those skills, and I think if you get soft, you lose those skills. So it's cool to hear that you went back to that environment because that's a lot different from what you were experiencing in Edmonton. You might have had it cushy. You're working 3 jobs. I presume that you went back to Mexico maybe for not something quite as glamorous.
No, you know what we did? We sold hamburgers. my ex-brother-in-law now, right, owned a water park, and they had a food concession in it, and most of the people there wanted American-type food, so we started doing hamburgers, and we did really well, and but not well enough.
Yeah.
Right, and so on weekends you'd sell a couple hundred hamburgers and make enough money to buy a bit of beer and pay the rent, and it was tough. It was a tough go.
Were you having fun?
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Mexico's amazing. Like the people, the culture, the food.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff.
And this is still Guadalajara?
It's just south of Guadalajara.
Okay.
Close enough.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And
so then, what's next?
Let's come back.
Hamburgers back to Edmonton.
Back to Atkinson. Try and make a little bit more money.
Yeah.
Try another business. Go back again. My ex-wife wanted to live there.
Yeah.
Right? And I love living there.
Yeah.
And so we just kept trying to do this entrepreneur thing, and then
It's amazing.
came back at a certain point, and I was done. Right? I needed the stability. I needed the economic stability. I can tell you, driving through El Paso, Texas, it's not a nice drive.
No?
As it gets south there, it's warm, it's hot.
Okay.
I did that drive probably a dozen times in my career, yeah.
For our viewers, Steph, I want to ask you, at what age you were, what kind of things you had going on in your life at that time, because one of the things that I value about entrepreneurship are the transitions that people go through in their journey, right? So that sounds like a real transitionary time. You'd had this vision that you were going to be in Mexico, that you were going to be crushing it, that you were going to be an entrepreneur there, and then you had this moment of truth where you said, okay, I'm ending this dream.
Yeah, I don't know that the dream of living in Mexico ended.
Yeah.
And things happen, and we talk a lot about this. On our little Instagram show that we're doing now, we talk a little bit about...
And what's that Instagram show called?
It's called Morning Messages from the Mattress, with a really, really cool girl by the name of Brandy Tyndall.
Yeah.
But the parameters, the economic factors, these things change in your life. Mm-hmm. So we move back, and it's time to settle down. Got to buy some property, got to do something, right? Mm-hmm. And so a friend of mine, I was talking to him, he says, why don't you come and sell houses? Okay.
Any idiot can sell houses.
Well, I didn't say that. I don't want to get in trouble, but yeah, any idiot can sell houses. And so I did that. And I went to work for a company, Rebuilt, just went bankrupt.
Okay.
Been one of the biggest builders in Edmonton for 20 years.
So they just in 2018?
Yeah, just 6 months ago, 8 months ago, something like that. But I went to work for them and put me in a neighborhood. Yeah. And I went in there and I sold 7 houses in my first month.
Really?
Sold 8 houses in my second month, but I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
I didn't sell another house for 8 months. I sat there. It was like, I didn't have any land left. I realized supply and demand, I had no more lots left. Yeah. And I sat there like, when do the next lots come on?
Yeah.
So, and then that's kind of where I started. And from there, I got a reputation as being a semi-decent salesperson.
Okay.
And so I always got the tough neighborhood, the tough project.
Yeah.
I remember once I got this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
The owner of the company, I think he got drunk on a Friday night and he bought 12 or 14 lots from another developer, and they were all under these great big power lines. The towers they put up there?
Oh, yeah.
They were in the backyard.
Nice.
Literally, you can
hear the humming of the background.
You just charge your cell phone by holding up the old Blackberries. Just hold it up, right? Oh my! The suntan every morning.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so, at that point, everybody. This was a famous purchase. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought, "Oh, this is trouble."
Put Steph there.
Put Steph there.
He'll sell anything.
I went out and I bought a little trailer. Okay. I bought signs.
You didn't go to them and say, "Hey, can you buy me a trailer?"
No. Why would I?
It's a noteworthy point.
It's a commission game, brother.
I'm appreciative.
Right? And so I went out there and I put out these signs every day, 8 signs, because it's not only were they under the power lines. Actually, I think there were 23 lots. Mm-hmm. They weren't under the power lines. They were 26 blocks from the nearest main street.
Right.
Right.
Nobody's gonna find you.
No. Yeah. There's no lights, no sign bylaws. You know what those are like, right? Yeah. I'll never put out a sign anywhere. Please don't. Okay. So I put up the signs every day. Had to pick them up every day.
Yeah.
6 months. Sold every single lot.
Wow.
Every single home.
Unreal.
And that was the last time I sold homes. I went into management after that.
Yeah.
I got lucky.
No kidding. So they looked at you and they said, "Hey, Steph, we got this opportunity for you." So tell me about that. What was the opportunity?
I actually helped start a housing company.
Okay.
And so there's a company in Edmonton now called Bedrock Homes, big company now.
Yeah.
But the owner at the time, Ken, came to me and said, "Hey, we got this thing going. We're about 6 months into it. Doesn't really have any legs. Hey, how about giving it a shot?" Mm-hmm. So I came in there and was a partner with a guy by the name of Terry Holman. And we did 16 homes in the next 3-4 months. And the next year we did 160. Mm-hmm. And the next year we did 220.
Yeah.
And, we grew that company. I think their biggest year ever was over 700 homes. I didn't stay much longer. I stayed 2.5-3 years. Mm-hmm. And, then I went on to something else.
I want to take a step back because you skipped right over something fairly important.
Uh-oh.
So scaling is something that we talk about lots on this show. And most entrepreneurs at some point intend to scale their business. And many are comfortable being solopreneurs and don't have, a grand vision for multiple employees or multiple markets. But going from 16 properties under a new company to, what did you say,
167, I think it was.
Requires massive scaling of all resources, unimaginable challenges in a 12-month period. So can you just for the sake of our viewership, walk us through what some of those challenges were. You know, pick the high-level ones that stand out for you, and help our viewers understand how you would navigate something as complex as that.
Well, you know, I don't take a lot of good memories away from that.
We were have to be good, but
I don't. We at all costs, and there's hard lessons that you learn as an entrepreneur is that not everything's at all costs. And I've said this before, that scaling doesn't always make a business better. In fact, 90% of the time it makes a business worse. And it's the act of scaling that is really tough. So we staff, qualified staff.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a bit of a boom going on. We've got qualified staff. They're hard to find. They're leaving. They're coming.
Are you on borrowed money, or are you on future revenue? Where are you at when you're scaling that hard and fast?
If I had all that money, we wouldn't be doing it, right? We're borrowing it,
Yeah.
right? So our partner, thankfully, was very well off, and money lent in, and banks, and leverage, and all this stuff.
Rolling.
You got to roll it, and then you have these big projects, and you got salespeople, and it's not easy, but we did it. And some of the things that happened while we were doing it is we hurt people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the bad memories, right? We pushed people too hard, we asked for too much.
Mm-hmm.
So later on, in my career, I backed off just a little, not a lot. I'm a guy that believes that once you hire somebody, stretch that elastic, pull it all the way out here,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll never have to stretch them again. But if you hire them and you give them just this little bit of capacity, it's so hard 3 months later to give them the bandwidth over here.
Mm-hmm.
So we hired people, we've kept it lean in these organizations, and we stretch them. And sometimes you stretch too far. So, I had a site suit. We're in a meeting, and I've said this story before, who left that meeting and parked himself in a garage and thought about ending his life.
Mm.
And those are tough moments as an entrepreneur when you go, man, did I push too hard? Are there other issues in the background? We get it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't take a lot of great memories, but I do. I learned we made no money. 160 homes made no money.
Really?
Right? We made a little bit of money, but we didn't make the money we could have.
Yeah.
It's all in the process. It's all in teaching. It's all in training, and it gets absorbed in a lack of productivity. And you just throw bodies at it, right?
So tell me this: you scaled to double that again in the
Mm-hmm.
second year. Were you profitable then?
Yes.
Okay.
Third year, fourth year, fifth year. When you first hire somebody, they have a capacity. Like I said, you should stretch it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lesson we learned, right? But they have a capacity to do, let's say, 30 homes untrained.
Yeah.
Whatever their job is, drafting or estimating or something. Well, once you get them trained, their capacity becomes 50 or 60.
Right.
So as you scale, you kind of do this on the expenses of staff, and then you got to bring it back down here.
Yeah.
And each time you do that, there's perfect sizes for an organization.
Yeah.
I use the funnel example a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, it's like this,
Yeah.
right? And everything kind of flows through you, the entrepreneur. And then you get so big, you turn the funnel upside and nothing goes through because you're the hole. You're the tiny little hole here.
Yeah.
Every decision has to be made by you. So scaling is really tough. Until you can get all the scaling up around the top of that funnel,
Yeah.
man, shit doesn't get through.
Well, and in that
It's
time,
tough.
you've got to be profitable, right? You've got to be profitable enough to be able to bring people around you, determine what your skill set is, how to leverage out of some of the things that you're not skilled at, and there's multiple points of failure as you scale through multiple challenges of a business. Right?
My current partner operated a competitive business next to that one at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember outside of the building, he did you don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. You're
You're not making money. I'm making money. We're good. We were making money. 8 months later,
Yeah.
right? So, it's a very interesting process,
Mm-hmm.
and you learn a ton. And I'm probably one of the most grateful guys for good economy because it allowed me to screw up so much
Right.
that there was still enough, left over on the plate to not call it a day, right?
Right.
Other guys, not so lucky.
And so you did that for how long?
Oh, we did almost 3 years.
Okay.
And then I went to work for a company out of Calgary called Homes by Avi.
Yep.
My partner and I had a falling out in the other business. It didn't work out. And then Homes by Avi had come to Edmonton, and I went to work with them on a 1-year contract to help establish them in Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. And I've done a lot of fun things as an entrepreneur too, so made some money, and I took 3 months off and drove all across Canada and the US after, and
Mm-hmm.
journeyed around, and then ended up at the Daytona Group. Okay.
So you drove around Canada and then just
Canada, U.S., and I actually got a phone call. I was in North Carolina,
Yeah.
and Tally Hutchinson, that his dad owns Daytona, and he goes, "So do you want to come work for us or what? I hear you're not working."
Really?
I was okay.
Back up a step. So, so you don't just get a phone call from a guy like that.
Well, it was his dad that poked me in the chest and said, "You're not making money."
Oh, okay.
And so we kind of knew each other,
Yeah, yeah.
and so there was a relationship there. And after I left Abby, I'd said to him, "You know, you're looking for somebody." We kind of did the dance back and forth, and his dad didn't want to hire me.
Mm-hmm.
His dad was like, "Nah, I don't think he knows what he's doing," and and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then 3 months later, it's like, "Here's the dance card. Are we going to dance or what?" And I went to work for him.
Cool.
And
That was in Edmonton.
that was in Edmonton.
Yeah.
I went to work as their sales manager for Edmonton.
Okay. Sales staff of how many? I got to think, quite a few.
At the time, probably 23, 24 salespeople with assistants and everything in total.
Yeah.
Big organization, a couple, 300 homes a year.
Yeah. Awesome. And did that for how long?
I worked for them for, I don't know, probably about 3 years. And I moved up. I went sales manager for there, and then sales manager for Alberta, and then sales manager. And then my last position with them was vice president of sales and marketing in a company that was doing 500-600 homes a year across Western Canada.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was a great company to work for. And Ralph was one of the best entrepreneurs I've ever met. Serial entrepreneur.
You might not know this, but I had the privilege of showing some people your house a while back.
Oh, which one?
I think it's the one. Well, I met Heather there. I think you're still living
at
there.
Prairie Harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I'd be lying if I didn't snoop your books a little bit.
Uh-oh.
So you're a pretty voracious reader, hey?
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, I would say. So, I mean, at least you got a big library. How about that? Okay.
Yeah, I buy them the good decorations.
Come to my office. There's many uncracked books there.
Yes.
But yours actually looked red. Not that I pulled them out, but So I was just thinking about what you were telling me about your journey through all these roles,
Mm-hmm.
with this company. And I know that as you're, growing your leadership ability and you're responsible for a greater business and more people and more budget, you got to know more, you got to learn more, you got to be more. And so tell us about that journey. What were you doing in those days to level up your game so that you could be the guy that could deliver what those people needed from you?
I didn't realize this till I got older, right? I threw time at it. I was a shitty manager. If you talk to people back in the Bedrock days as a manager,
Yeah.
I was a shitty manager. I was a driver.
Mm-hmm.
I would do, then I would learn,
Okay.
right? And those skills, those skills later, as entrepreneur skills are great.
Yeah.
But as manager skills, they're confusing for people around you. And I talked to Dave Bodell's a great friend of mine, right? And I'm on the phone with him yesterday, and he goes, "You are the hardest guy I've ever worked for." And I said, "What?" And he says, "And I've loved every minute of it."
Yeah.
So people that are wishy-washy, don't know exactly what they want out of life, really struggle around me, because I'm like, I'm going to make you the best, let's go. Sorry, that was probably loud. But I'm there.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just want to be a receptionist, man. Like, settle down. No, we're gonna make you an entrepreneur. I want to. And they're like, no, man. I got 1, 2, 3 points.
I want to be done at 4:30.
Yeah.
And
so that's been the hardest thing for me. If you talk to Heather Everett, who is the most amazing wife a guy could ask for, she gets pushed all the time.
yeah.
The next step, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? And I remember when I first met her, we got together. My ex-wife and I had gotten divorced. And we got together. And typical Albertan guy, I'm not proud of this, but I was like, hey, the laundry isn't going to do itself, right?
She says, yes,
she
you're
looks at
right.
me and she goes, I am the first woman in my family ever to graduate with a degree in business administration, okay? It'll be a cold day in hell when I wash your laundry.
Yeah.
And so there was already this, and I loved her for it.
Mhm.
We still fought about it, but I loved her for it, right?
Yeah.
And so as we've gone forward, I've always remembered her saying that to me.
Mhm.
She didn't go to school and sacrifice and stay at home in Bonnyville and marry a guy from the rigs and have 4 kids and stay home. that wasn't her gig. And not that there's anything wrong with it,
Yeah.
but she wanted more. So I keep reminding her of that every time she says to me, you know, I might want to just stay home and be a housewife for a while. No, you told me. Right? I'm in so much shit now, I can tell you that. I'm surprised the phone hasn't rang.
We'll keep our eye on it.
We'll keep an eye. So, yeah, like I've surrounded myself.
So there's no barrier for you. There's no time of day. There's no person that you're just like don't want the most from. You want that for people, I presume, right?
Time of day means shit. But
waking hours.
No. I got and she's a friend of mine, and she's going to call me up after, and she's going to beat me, assuming she's watching her amazing show, right? But she says, I'm a realtor, I'm a professional, I work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Delete?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any entrepreneur that works 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And I don't have so the guys, if you talk to anybody in our group that I coach and mentor now,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be like, yeah, Steph will call 8:30 at night, 9:30 at night, he'll text at 10. Like after 10, I text and go, you still up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't rest.
Yeah.
Does your squirrel shut off?
I'm going to be honest with you. I caught an earful at 5:05 this morning. For I woke up and I noticed my wife was awake, and we work together, as I mentioned to you. You know, she's in operations and compliance, and I said, we've got this thing, and there's this thing going on, and we need to do this thing to fix it. And she rolls over.
Way to be descriptive. There's lots of things.
Well,
I know, I get it.
You know, there's always things. And she rolls over and looks at me and says, really? It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't you just give me a hug and say good morning? Like, those were literally the first words out of my mouth. But I think that's the constant battle that you face when you're an entrepreneur, is that not everybody's on your page, and not everybody's at your speed, and not everybody shares your passion and your drive, right? And I have to be frank, that's what I want in my relationship. I want somebody that's going to help me check those times and create barriers so that, I don't wind up single, living alone, running a successful business with loads of cash in the bank and no friends or family around me, because that's not worth anything to me, right? And so I need those barriers, and I appreciate it when the people in my life help me create those. But left to my own devices, I'll push.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, like left to your own devices, right? Because I think I would be single, in the business all the time. But you bring up a good point. And I love this new book called Unfuck Yourself.
Yeah, I haven't read that yet.
It's a great book. And it's all Psych 101. It's all just a rehash of stuff sort of put in a little more direct fashion, including the title, right?
Yeah.
And the whole one chapter is, what are you willing or unwilling to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I say this to guys all the time. You can be a millionaire. Anybody.
Right. Anybody
can be a millionaire. Sacrifice your family, sacrifice your time, put in your 18 hours a day, be willing to lie, cheat, steal. I don't know. Not everybody, I'm not saying that that's what happens.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to do anything to get that money, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Right? Being a successful entrepreneur, you have to determine what that means up front.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I want to be well off because I don't have a pension.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to have a few properties, and I want to do this, but I want integrity. I don't want to screw anybody along the way. I want to do the best I can.
Mm-hmm.
And, not everybody's perception is the same.
Yeah.
There's probably people out there that said, you know what, I don't think the deal I did with Steph was a fair one.
Mm-hmm.
Might be true. But from my lens, I've always tried to do fair deals. Firm, but fair.
The deal that gets inked is the fair deal.
In my mind, you sign on the bottom line, that's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, if you didn't have all the facts and we're pulling the wool over your eyes and
that's different.
All that stuff, it's not. But the guy with the paper and the guy who signs on the paper makes the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of it. Yeah. And if you're going to complain about your deal later, for years I did on my partnership on Bedrock.
Okay.
I bitched about it because I thought I got the raw end of the deal. I got exactly what I signed up for. Because I didn't sign the docs in front.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, what are you willing, what are you unwilling to do?
Yeah.
And I'm willing to find a balance.
Yeah.
First part of my career, especially here in building the housing company, I gave
And which housing company was that?
So I left Daytona, and the guys that own Daytona had a land position here in Copperwood.
Yeah.
So Daytona develops the land out in Copperwood, and Ralph said, "How'd you like to start your own thing again?" He said, "How about Lethbridge?" And I'd been down to Lethbridge working with a group, and Heather went to university here.
Okay.
It's an amazing facility. The U of L is amazing, right? I said, okay. So we came down, we did some exploratory trips, and And then went back and said, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
And we started out in '08. Do you remember the economy in '08?
That was my first year licensed in real estate.
Mhm.
I was leaving the university, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. Courtney, do you know what's happening out there?
Mhm.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So we, not exactly a Chevy S10, maybe a Dodge 3500 this time, and a U-Haul, but literally we were the Clampetts. We didn't sell our house in Edmonton. We still had a $500,000 house in Edmonton. We came over onto 14th Ave and 17th Street.
Yeah.
Bought an old bungalow. It was all we could afford.
Was that the one that we didn't sell, but I think, did we help you move out of it, or did we sell it? You might have.
No, that was a different one.
Different
Chuck
house.
Goulias actually sold me. Am I allowed to plug Chuck? Am I in trouble now?
No, just so you know how much I love Chuck. The very first house that I personally owned that was sold, Chuck represented the buyer in a multiple offer situation, and to this day, he's the model of how I explain multiple offers should be managed. So just
Guy with great integrity.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So we bought this house. We moved in, and we were given the position. Like we bought, I don't know, 8 lots in Copperwood.
Mhm.
And at this time, like I turned the TV on. It was just like sitting in front of us here, 50-inch in the living room. I got my desk set up in the dining area, so we were eating at our desk every night.
Mhm.
And the news is the Dow has dropped to record lows, and the Dow is dropping. In Phoenix, people are shedding mortgages and houses, and there's people jumping out of bank windows in Wall Street because they're getting caught, and it's just falling apart.
Yeah.
And we just put our head down,
Mhm.
and in August of 2008, we pulled our permit for a show home.
Mhm.
My kids helped me every weekend. We took our garbage to the dump on Saturdays because you could take free garbage to the dump.
Right.
And after a while, they're like, is this really household stuff? And yes, sir, it is. But it was free.
Yeah.
And we cut every corner we could. I built my own. I sat out there. I bought, those beautiful glass frames they have on show homes now when you go in?
What do you mean glass frames?
On the garage door, they have these beautiful glass aluminum frames.
Yeah.
Well, I built mine out of wood.
No.
Dave Jackson ordered some pine 4x4s, and I bolted it all together, and I ordered the glass. I saved $2,000.
Yeah.
And we put our desk in there, and we opened our show home in almost exactly 10 years ago to the date.
So you were builder, project manager, salesperson.
Office was in the show home. Heather and I were the only employees, and we had started a couple spec homes, and we moved into the show home. And when we moved into the show home, we sat there and we looked at each other and we did it. It was beautiful. I got a picture, like the beautiful house.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous, and nobody showed up. Right?
Mhm.
Our first traffic came in on Saturday. Sunday we sold our first home.
Really?
Yeah. A gentleman who's still one of my best friends, a guy by the name of Luigi Polio,
Okay.
was one of our first occupancy.
Hmm.
Well, I think he was our second buyer.
Okay.
The other guys, I won't say their name. We're good friends still, but I don't. Anyway, there's a long story behind that. Wonderful people. But it just sort of rolled.
Yeah.
And we did 16, 17 homes in our first year.
Really?
And we worked out of that show home. We hired a wonderful girl, Tiffany Lohman, to do drafting in the show home.
Yeah.
Patrick Kuntz, we hired him as a soup. And we operated out of that show home for a couple of years.
That's a real bootstrap kind of company, coming here with nobody. You didn't pre-hire, you didn't have infrastructure built, no websites constructed prior to being here, like literally nothing.
Listen, I don't want to say it's completely blue. Ralph put up the money, right? Other partners, our friends Bruce and Marvin Galtz helped us with the company. We had other investors, right? And
there's some blessings in that, but there's also a lot of accountability.
Oh my goodness, right? You're like, I remember I'm out there, and this is coming to Lethbridge from Edmonton. I'm out there on a Sunday, and I'm cleaning off the driveway, getting ready for Sunday traffic, and Marvin comes out and he goes, "What are you doing?" So I'm getting ready to open the show. He goes, "It's Easter Sunday, Steph, in southern Alberta." What does that mean, buddy?
Yeah.
And I mean, I grew up in a Christian household, but it's just Edmonton. You're open Sundays.
Yeah.
He looks at me and goes, "You don't open Sundays, sir." So I said, "Oh, okay, no problem." He leaves, so I opened up.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think he was happy with me, but that's the little things we had to learn as we went along the way. And we were there, and it was. I have a good friend who was also an executive at the time at Daytona, and he went and started a company almost the same time I did.
Really? Here?
No, in Edmonton.
Okay.
Hired 5 people.
Yeah.
Opened the doors with 5 employees.
That's a lot of expense day one.
Took him 3 years to make a dime.
Yeah.
We were profitable in our first 6 months.
Yeah.
So I tell you, it's that little bit of effort at the beginning, that not working from behind the red line, as they call it, really helped us.
You know, I've talked about this with many people, and we all have, you know, a way of being, and I'm curious to hear what your way of being is. But I spend a lot of time just scared shitless. I just wake up and I'm, you know, 5:05 this morning. I've slept in, and the first words out of my mouth are fear-based thoughts. And, you know, I correct that. I have a practice where I can turn that around and have an abundant mindset. But, you know, my initial reaction in life is generally like that. And I gotta say, like, to me, that's powered me through a lot of those times. You know, like, I'm gonna be the first guy up. I'll be the guy at the show home, and I'll be doing it because, you know what, I got to make this work. Why? Because I'm scared, and I lean on that, and I love that part about me. But I also know that I can't live that way 24/7. Is that what you think drove you during those days, or where did that come from for you?
At any cost, it can't fail.
But where does that come from, and why is that?
That's deep. My pops, a wonderful guy, workaholic, dropped dead, 59.
Sorry.
And no, it's a lot of lessons in that. And but he lost our family farm back in the 70s, 74, 75, as did a ton of other people in Saskatchewan at the time. But I remember thinking, and then again, in 94, in the economic crisis in Mexico, like, we have a tough economic time right now.
Yep.
But man, I don't know anybody who's lost their car. I mean, I know they're out there, right? But I don't know, I haven't seen a bank that's got 1,200 cars sitting in the parking lot 90 days later. It's a softer landing. And so I never saw my dad cry.
Yeah.
And when he lost the farm, that's one of my only childhood memories, is I saw my dad cry. And whenever he talked about it, he got teary-eyed. And I'm a big crybaby, but he wasn't, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that motivates me to this day, that, you know, success is the only option, failure's not, to quote my friend Eminem. I'm quoting Eminem, right?
First time on my show.
First time on your show, man. Like, I look at it. Today I was in the office, and I was talking about, okay, if things go this way and the economy continues to slide here, and it's an election. You know what happens in elections? All the wallets go away.
Yeah.
Right? How many teachers do you think in this province right now are making big purchases?
Yeah.
Right? For whatever reason, they might think that a PC government, right, might make changes in their industry. They're sitting on their wallets.
Yeah.
And probably rightfully so. I don't know. Right? Look back at the Ralph and Klein days. People hesitate to make decisions. I think it's different this time around. I think that we're going to see different things happen with our new government, whatever it may be, NDP or PC, right? Because we're more educated now. We're trying to figure out things that work.
We've got an NDP government that likes oil. It's new.
Yeah, it's new. A little too late. Sorry, did I say that?
You can say whatever you want, man.
Oh man, like, build a pipeline. I mean, stop the payments.
Yeah.
Of whatever we got to do. Our oil, and I don't care what side of the environmental scale you're on, this is the most ethical, clean oil in the world. If I'm wrong, come prove me wrong. And we're getting $10, $11 a barrel for it.
Yeah.
And we got hard-working Albertans losing their job today, not because we can't produce oil. We're producing a shitload of it, in fact. We just can't sell it at market value. Yeah. And it's because of a constraint. And so,
it's tough as an entrepreneur, isn't it, when you see problem, fix problem is what we do, right? And sometimes, the problems become overwhelming and you have to prioritize, but this seems like a fairly straightforward thing, doesn't it?
Governments, on many levels in this country, do not have income problems. They have spending problems. And the spending problems that they've created have created this environment where people just expect that there will be no consequences. There will be no hard landing. And so even in their last downturn, we have a federal government that came with all the Canada Action Spending Plan, right? And they spent money. Keynesian economics, I believe they call it, right? Well, we've become so addicted to that it happens all the time now, and even when we're not in downtimes. Yeah. And so,
take your business and try to spend your way out of it, right?
It's very tough to do. It's very tough to do. And I get that these are much more complex. I'm just a simple farm kid from Saskatchewan. I don't get the big concepts of political spending.
Yeah.
But when I see waste, when I see government spending more on services than I could buy them for, I have a problem. And when I see a government that isn't every single elected MLA in this province should be demonstrating every day in Edmonton for a goddamn pipeline.
Yeah.
They're collecting their check either way, right?
Yeah.
This pipeline changes our economic future,
Yeah.
or pipelines.
Yeah. How do you feel, since we're on this, this political vein, how do you feel about how the federal government has managed the relationship with Alberta and oil, and then tie that into the real estate market? How's that for a complex segue?
I guess, you know what, it's interesting because I'm more of a liberal person, but I probably vote conservative. But, conservatives in Canada are American liberals.
Well, you just said you're kind of a big crybaby, so you're a sensitive person, you care about human beings?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I want our government to manage our finances. I want our government to provide opportunity when necessary, to live in the 60,000 foot arena and not dive down every time and get into the muck. But right now, in this country, we have had, for the last 11 months now, an economic stress test. I'm not calling it a mortgage stress. It's an economic stress test. Somebody somewhere said these markets are too heated up in Toronto and Vancouver.
Yeah.
So you know what they did? They went across the country and they sold everybody umbrellas. Mm-hmm. So just because it's raining in Vancouver doesn't mean I need an umbrella in Lethbridge. Mm-hmm. I would not qualify for the home I'm living in today if I had to go requalify.
Neither would I.
So how the hell does that work?
Yeah.
I understand I've got a few rental properties, I've got other things that take up my lending capacity. Mm-hmm. But we've got kids, we have a group of millennials, okay, if that's the right term, that are being locked out of their biggest, largest wealth-forming capacity ever.
And you've got new young families who are being locked out of the property that they should be able to move into to grow their families, to grow their income, to grow their wealth.
Exactly. At this moment, you can purchase 20% less than you could 11 months ago.
Yeah.
20% less because they introduced this law that says, you have to qualify up here, mm-hmm. right? Because they're afraid that over time and renewals, right, that these people will not be able to afford the property. On paper, it makes perfect sense. I don't want anybody to default.
Right.
We don't need the 80s all over again.
How much appreciation have we seen in Alberta, well, I should say in Lethbridge, in the 10 years that you've been here in terms of property values, that we required that?
You're putting me on the spot.
That's a rhetorical question, but
yeah.
For our viewers.
Listen, I've made more money from poker with you in one evening than I've made on appreciation on houses. Like it's
before the stress test, right?
Before the stress test, that people build wealth in several ways, and there is an argument that you can rent for your entire life and take that differential, put it away in a bank, invest it at 8%, and you'll end up with more money than if you just simply had a mortgage. Mm-hmm. There's an argument that can be made financially. The problem is nobody takes that spare money.
Yeah.
So by 100 years of home ownership, we have this experience that over time housing does this and this and this and continues to climb. Mm-hmm. And that's how when you reach 65, 70 years old, most Canadians find their wealth in their home.
Yeah.
If you lock a group of people out of the market for 10 years, that wealth isn't achieved till 85.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do then? What kind of social programs are we going to have to put into place with people at 75 who've never accumulated any wealth?
Yeah. Well, and the other problem is that if you take consider a millennial, for example, you're taking away, let's say, that 10-year period. At the very beginning of their appreciation, they lose all the opportunity to see that compound growth at a very early and integral stage where their wealth would be best served to grow, right? I mean, you're compounding for decades after that, but you need to get started, and you need that period of time, and we just don't have that right now.
We don't, and what all the factors are not being taken into consideration. Mm-hmm. When you apply for a mortgage, they base it on your income today. Mm-hmm. Assuming you're never going to get a raise, mm-hmm. assuming your wife's never going to make more money, assuming that she might not go back to work or you don't have a part-time hustle, mm-hmm. the default rate on mortgages, like the default on insurance, 0.034, I think it is. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, CMHC is supposed to be an underwriter, but they do so many other things with our insurance money that is not insurance for you, the consumer. I don't care. People think that when they get a mortgage insurance from CMHC, that's insuring you.
Yeah. No.
Insures the lender.
Yeah.
And believe me, there are programs that can help you, and they do have some soft landing programs.
Yeah.
But you don't end up with a house after. They didn't help you.
Yeah. And I don't know about, well, I do know. I don't know how much our viewers know about banks and insurance companies, but they're great investments, and they're some of the most profitable entities in our entire country. And who is it affecting? Entrepreneurs, families. And so talk to us a bit about how that's affected your business. So you've been successful here. You've been doing this for 10 years. You've been on a journey of growth. Now you run a successful company. Talk to us a bit about Ashcroft's growth, your involvement in that, and what some of these changes have meant to your business.
Well, about 2.5 years ago, right? One of the things I've said, and I've said it a long time, is that I'm good as a manager to a certain point. And I felt that I was the smallest hole in our company at that time, and I needed to leverage myself. So I sold out. My two best employees at the time bought in. And now I sit in the background, and we've got 7 other housing companies like this that I get to coach and watch. And Lethbridge, for the most part, pretty stable market. We were never too top heavy. We haven't had to lay anybody off. But I can tell you across the board, if you look at our industry right now, we're shedding jobs in Lethbridge. Is that a good thing? No. I don't care how you look at it. Any type of job loss is not good. You know, some people argue, you got to go through these transitions and people got to learn lessons. I don't care. You got to feed your family. And when the job loss is being caused by an ill thought out policy of, and I haven't offered solutions yet, but I have some. Make them sign a 10-year M. Right? Make them sign a 10-year M, and then they're signing at maybe 0.5% higher. Right? Or force the banks when they renew not to jump the rate higher than 1%. Right? There's lots of different programs you could have put in place that didn't artificially stall the market. We have, we probably had 25% this year as a total of kids who wanted to buy a house. Not just kids, but young people. Getting old now, call them kids, youngsters.
In their 30s.
In their 30s, young punks. Right? But they're out there, they're trying to buy a home, and the bank's saying, no, man, you can buy a townhome. And they're going, well, why would I buy a townhome? I already rent the house. So, going back to what that means at Ashcroft, it's been a tougher year, right? And it's been hard on everybody. And you look around and you go, well, what do we cut first? How do we do this? How do we make sure that we stay in business? And our staff have been great. Our staff are cleaning the office now. Our staff are doing little things that help us to keep everybody in that circle going. But let me take you to my company in Regina. We just laid off 3 people. Good people. Well-intentioned people. Smart people that we took years to train. Right? And they're out of our industry. Why? And then go to Edmonton. And we've laid off more people in companies there. And and I get it. It's tough. Right? But it's part of the life and cycle of business.
And these aren't companies, by the way, with a 30 or 40% profit margin that you're trying to protect, right?
I have never, in my life, bring on my auditor, seen a 30% margin. In my life. Right? There's this false myth that home builders make a ton of, well, we deal with a ton of money. It's lower margins, but it's a ton of money. So when you're leveraging, you can do very well in the home building business. There's no doubt about it. But each transaction is $350,000. So if you make a small margin on that, right, and you do 100 of those in a year, you can do well. But it's not like food that's got a 400% margin. Michael Marcotte, where are you with your 400? I'm kidding.
The money's in restaurants.
The money's in restaurants. Can't you see? Nobody ever fails in the restaurant business.
Mike's coming on in January.
Oh no! He'll get on here and tell you builders make 400%.
Right. Realtors are the worst, though. They make all the money. Right?
Well, isn't it 1,000%? Or is there any?
We aim for 1,000. Sometimes it's only like 900.
This is the tough part that people don't see, right? I know 10 realtors that make a really good living, and I know 200 realtors, and I know the next 20 after that that make a decent living. And then there's a whole bunch of them out there that got side hustles and doing their thing and trying to make it work. And you know what? It's those guys that Kobe Bryant this shit that win. And have you ever watched that Simon House interview with Kobe Bryant?
No.
He's the guy that said, and he looked around, if everybody's practicing 3 hours, I'm doing 4. His first year of junior basketball, he didn't score a basket, not 1 point. One point. He said, I went home and instead of that, I went and practiced 4 hours a day. And I've practiced 4 hours a day for my entire career. That's what you do. Right?
Well, that's what successful people do, and it's a question of what you're willing to sacrifice too. But there's limits too. I mean, you talked about what you're willing to do and what you're willing to sacrifice. I have a real estate coach. I suppose a real estate coach, and one of the things that he's on me about is starting my day earlier. Being at the office at 7:30 in the morning. Man, I'm up at 4:30, and I got a whole thing that I do until I arrive at the office at 9, but I'm not willing to go to work at 7:30 in the morning. So, FYI, if you want to call me in the morning at 7:30, I'm not picking up. And that's just one of the things that I want to protect. I want to have breakfast with my kids. I want to make pancakes. If I die tomorrow, that's what I want. But talk to me during the day, and you'll see a super tight schedule. And we all have those things, and you got to construct your barriers, right? And if you're using your time wisely, and you're surrounding yourself with badasses like you do, you're able to leverage, and you're able to support and coach and lead, and able to have a compound effect from what you're able to create around you, right?
If you surround yourself with successful people, I don't know how you're not successful. I have, if anybody asks me what my biggest key to, and I just think success is an arrogant word, sorry. The key to living a pretty decent life and having some moderate success, it's the people. I have had just amazing, starting with Heather, my wife, and Dave Bodell around me, and even like the old Jordan Jezero, I know you know her, she worked for us. She was great. She did a great job for us. And we always had good people. And we let them be the best in their areas, right? And they were. I've had great designers. The one Melissa Harbers, we have right now, amazing design. If you want to talk about design with somebody, and you know what background she has in design? Zero.
Yeah.
But she loves it, passionate, and she has self-taught herself over the past 3-4 years. I love her.
That's amazing.
I'd throw anything at her. So
I want to talk about your coaching and leadership, because we chatted before the show, and you mentioned that at this stage in your life, having done so much, one of the things that gets you jacked in the morning, that gets you really excited, is having people come to your bedroom. And but no, I mean, I'm really talking about mentorship and coaching and leadership, and now being able to expand the forum for which you can do that. So why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I kind of got thrown into this when I sold out at Ashcroft. We had partnerships elsewhere. My partners had partnerships elsewhere. They said, well, why don't you coach, mentor these guys? There's 7-8 housing companies that we can grow more. And so I started doing that. And if I'm being really honest, I didn't like it at all.
Really?
Not in the beginning. I got to go into somebody's business, because it was their business, and tell them how to run their business. How well was that received?
Yeah, generally not very well.
Not very well. And it took a lot of time and a lot of breaking down walls and a lot of barriers. And we had fun, but I really enjoyed the gregarious part of our business, walking down the hall and high-fiving Sarah at the front desk and talking to people. And all of a sudden now I'm sitting in my home office in my house where all those books were that I don't read. Right? And I'm like, I'm Skyping people, and I'm like, I'm lonely.
Hello out there.
I'm lonely. And I didn't really want to... CHB, I got to be president of the Home Builders Association for Alberta one year. And they called me up, and I was president, and they said, hey, we got this mentorship thing going on in Jasper this year.
Yeah.
You'd have so much fun with that. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Right? And so I get there, and I'm jacked, and I'm like, I got my suit on, and I'm ready to get mentored. I'm going to sit in the crowd, and I'm going to learn from some of the best builders in this province.
Yeah.
Right? She comes up and goes, get up there.
And you're the guy.
I'm the guy. I'm like, what? Yo, it's you and David Hogue and this other guy. I'm like, what am I doing on stage? And it was at that point that I realized, or I took into consideration, that other people saw me as somebody who knew what they were doing. Somebody who had a passion for trying to share that knowledge and teach people some pretty basic stuff that we're not willing to accept.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, let's talk about the home building side for a sec.
Yeah.
Most home building companies fail because they're started by construction people. So they'll come out there and they'll say every 2x4 has to be 10 inches apart, and you got to do double drywall, and the windows have to be triple paned, and you have to have this amazing fortress of a product. And they put it on the market, and unless you can see, feel, touch it, how many homes have you gone in that you can tell if it has double drywall or not?
Yeah.
Right?
The homeowner wants you to pitch those things, though.
Yeah, but they want them for free. So what you have to do is you have to find this balance of great product, right? You got to put in the right amount of product, the right finishes, the quartz, the sink that looks good, and all this stuff. But you can't put in $800 sinks if your competitor's putting in $300 sinks.
Yeah.
So in the world of houses, it's no different than cars. And I remember the Cavalier. Remember the Cavalier?
I do.
Heather bought one. Heather bought one. It was $19,500. I wanted her to buy at the time. A Honda Civic was $21,000. She made a $1,500 decision.
Yeah.
That's about as far apart as you can get on a car in that bracket.
Yeah.
In houses, it's about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Builder A, builder B. If we're 10 grand apart, you better be able to prove that.
Yeah.
And so let's just start there. How do you build a home? But even with staff, I have seen more companies fail because they want the best staff in every. You cannot hire Kobe Bryants in every position. Your team fails because you can't afford it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, look at some of the winningest teams. You know, they recruit and they coach and they train and they mentor and they grow. You build community and together you crush, right? But it's expensive to do it the other way.
Phil Jackson, one of the best coaches ever, right? Talks about that. Sure, I had a star, right? Was Dennis Rodman a star when he first started out?
Guys that showed up and did the work.
Guys
coachable,
like they're just coachable, ready to go, and willing to put it all on the line. And it's the honesty part that most people have the biggest struggle with. I think you get this. Like, you can say to somebody, listen, I want to be a millionaire. Shit, I want to be a supermodel. Right? Unless I hit the gym like you do, right? Get the fancy haircut, right? And the nice jacket. I'm not being a supermodel ever. I mean, you have a better chance, right?
Still no chance.
Still no chance. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing, okay, to put all this time and effort and energy in, and I get guys who beat me up for this because they'll say, yeah, I want to be home and eat dinner with my family. Good. Then just go work for a builder.
Yeah.
Because when paychecks need to be signed, or when you're looking for mortgage money at the end of the month to pay bills, and your trades are knocking on the door the next morning, and you go home at 5 o'clock, you don't get to tell them, no money.
Yeah.
You better have that money.
Yeah.
Right? This is a common practice in building. Hey guys, I need a couple weeks to pay you. 10 years at Ashcroft, I've never done that. Proud of that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's because Heather worked countless hours trying to make sure mortgage draws and finances and cash and closings and lawyers and holdbacks and so many balls in the air.
Yeah.
Right? Proud of that.
Yeah.
I don't think we get appreciated for it, but proud of that.
Well, that's the part of any industry, though, right? There's a lot that happens in the background to manage so many things. The relationships that you have to have with your trades to get them to show up and do job after job, to have those salespeople want to sell your product, to have your team motivated and inspired to come sell the product, right? There's a lot of balls in
Look, imagine Remax, okay? So Remax here is a very well-known agency. Or imagine Century 21, or imagine Royal LePage. And they went out there and they wanted to have in their group of realtors Tyler Martineau, Courtney Atkinson, Kerry Flatla, what's his name, David Agama, like all these top stars. Can't afford them. Can't put them in the room. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So everybody gets to have one or two superstars, and you're the superstar in your whole world, right? In your brokerage.
It's easy. It's got my name on the sign.
That's right.
My wife thinks I'm the best too. Steph.
Oh yeah, she tells me that all the time.
Oh.
She says Courtney is the best. She does.
Has she been interviewed in your bed yet?
No, she has not been interviewed. So that's. Do you know why we did this morning mattress show?
Yeah, I want to hear about it.
So I went out for lunch with Jennifer McCarthy.
Yeah.
I had to think for a sec. She owns Teacup Tiny Homes. She used to work for Adam Lee. Yeah. Decided one day I've had enough. Right? She said goodbye to John. I'm going to go do this. I love Jen. She just went out and did it, and she's got this tiny home thing going, and it's a great little hustle. She calls me up and she says, Steph, I want to go for lunch with this girl by the name of Brandy Lee Tyndall. She wants to talk marketing. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we go over to the Asian place over on Mayor McGrath. I don't remember what it's called. I can never pronounce it.
Oh man, where?
Some low song or something like that, or some high song.
Oh yeah.
Some Tuan. I don't know, but it's the one.
Yeah, you got it.
Did I get it?
I'm pretty sure.
Perfect. Not bad for a guy. Hey, doesn't speak
For a Spanish guy.
For a Spanish guy. So we go there and we sit down and we get in this conversation. We're talking about marketing.
Yeah.
And I made the comments to her that marketing is complete nuance. Everything in marketing is about nuance. And if you miss the nuance, you're effed.
Yeah.
And she thought it was a great line. And so she went on her Instagram and she posted on her Instagram, hey, a guy I had lunch with said this today, and had lots of comments and questions. She said, well, I'll interview you tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm in the background trying to talk to people about how to use social media to properly engage, to create an audience, to create not just a marketing tool, but a venue for your brand, to become brand ambassadors, to become influencers, to connect with the influencers, to get out there and grow your brand through social media. I think it's a great opportunity. And most people don't get it right. We do published media instead of social media, but social media. And I'm trying to say to the guys, you got to do these things. You got to be willing to go on camera and do an interview on Instagram with somebody and get 200 people watching it. Because I know today there's like 20,000 people watching.
Yeah, that's great.
At least. And so that's how it started. So we did the one-minute interview, and I said, we have pretty good chemistry.
We got something.
Let's do it again tomorrow morning. And then that night, I created a Facebook page. I created a logo. We put it on the Facebook page. We created a test marketing department. We used the Facebook page. We have 810 people in there today. But hey, what do you think of this logo? And people are like, no, I don't like this. And Brandy likes to like these colors. And she co-branded her brand onto mine. I figured it out later. But in 3 weeks, okay, we had a morning show. We had a Facebook page. We had 800 members. We get about 100 people watching the show every day. We get lots of interaction. We had 600 people on my Instagram. I didn't have any. I just wanted to learn how to do it. And I subscribed to the philosophy, do, then learn.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we did. And who knows? Maybe we didn't do. This is the first time I think we didn't do one. Was today. She's sick.
Oh. So what's your end game?
Oh.
We only got a couple minutes left. I've been asking you a lot.
How much time we have left?
You can continue.
How much time do we have? We got 3 hours. You know what my end game is?
Yeah. Oh no.
Somewhere south, somewhere tropical.
Yeah.
Right?
Guadalajara.
No, probably U.S., like Phoenix, somewhere like that. I love Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love the diversity, the restaurants, everything. But I also love Maui. I just think I'd get island fever after a while if I can't walk through an IKEA once every 6 months and figure out why the world is orderly.
Tell me a bit of the connection between the your morning show and the end game. That's one of the pieces that I'm curious about. What are you hoping to accomplish with that? Is it to inspire, to motivate, to just spread some of what it is that you've learned? Tell us more about that.
Every head's a world. Every brain's got so much stuff in it. I don't know that I'm teaching anybody anything. I really think at the end of the day that dialogue, talking about it, being proven wrong. Like many times on the show I've said things and people are like, no, you can't think that way. But the end game is to push people to do. If you want to be successful in life, I don't care if it's athleticism, business, your romance with your wife, unless you do something, there's nothing to talk about. And so my end game is to go back to people that give a shit, right? I have some amazing, amazing entrepreneur friends here and entrepreneur friends, right? And they're different people. But the guys that I just connect with the most, guys like you, Dave Jackson over at Lealta, I connect with that guy. He just loves his business. Yeah. You do. And you're at lunch today, should we buy this lot? Yeah, let's buy this lot. Should we buy this stuff? Let's buy this, let's do this, let's move this, if we can inspire somebody in the morning to get out of the bed and not go, shit, it's Monday.
Yeah.
Because I look at Monday as like, oh, thank God, because I don't like weekends.
Yeah.
Ask Heather. If I sit around on a Sunday, I have spent 5 weekends in Lethbridge in the past 2 years.
Really?
I hate weekends. I got to go to my cabin, right? I got to drink a little scotch, and then I try to mellow out, and I pull out the laptop, and as long as I'm with my family, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy that goes to Maui and sits in a chair for 3 days and goes, oh, screw this, let's go.
Right.
And rents on every highway in Maui, every side road. So the end game, inspire a little bit. I don't know that I'm inspirational, but inspire a little bit. Have some fun.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get through this, man.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you're having fun. And you told me a bit about the trip that you're taking all over Southeast Asia, and it's good to see people that have done a lot and that continue to, I don't want to say reinvent, but continue to kind of grow the gifts that they have, and that can kind of spread that love. I mean, I've seen what you've done with Ashcroft. It's been inspirational. I've seen the people around you grow, the company grow, the gifts that you've given our community over the years, and your sphere of influence, and those things are inspiring. So I think it's really cool that you're doing my show. Thanks for this. And this show in the mornings, because there's a lot more that the world could benefit from that you have to give. So thanks for doing that.
Well, you said something that I key in on. Business. And there's an element in our society that seems like they're anti-success, anti-business, anti-big corporation. Listen, I'm not a big fan of Walmart. Right? I think a company that big, add 50 cents to every product and pay your people a living wage. Like, come on, already.
Yeah.
Okay? Government shouldn't need to step in businesses like this. How many billions does the Walton family need? I get it. But they didn't start as Walmart.
No.
Right? They started in the back of a pickup truck, and he's selling a whole bunch of bulk toilet paper, I think is how the story goes, buying toilet paper in bulk. And, nobody starts as a big corporation. And so big corporations do things. But medium and small-sized businesses like ours, listen, in Lethbridge, I know, and it's not bragging, but $500,000 of the profits that we've earned in this company have gone back to Lethbridge College, Lethbridge lacrosse, basketball, baseball, CCH basketball program, just families in need. Families at Christmas time that we saw on Facebook once, and I'm not, this isn't, our company has that culture.
Well, you shouldn't have to apologize for being a badass. Well, these are things that you do. You don't have to apologize to me or our viewers for wanting to give back and having the means to give back. That's part of who you are, right?
Businesses only get to do that when they make a profit.
Yeah.
And that is the bottom line. And I don't believe in obscene profits. I don't believe in gross profits, and I don't believe in it at the benefit or the cost of people. But in a month and a half, I get to go to El Salvador and build houses for a bunch of people that will never in their life put together $1,000 ever. And I do that because this community in Lethbridge supports that.
Yeah.
And we'll support it all day long. And it's sort of a vice versa thing. And I just believe too much is given, much is expected. And I think you and I should play some poker again. Because I probably need to pay for...
Can I just donate some money in advance?
That's the best poker night ever. I just got lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
We all felt super sharked, but anyway, let's do it again. Absolutely. Hey, we should wind up, because you're the kind of guy that I could talk to for hours, and I'd like to do that again. Maybe even have you on after your El Salvador trip, because that's a story worth hearing. That's a whole thing that you do, and with a group of people that are also real badasses in our community. But I would just ask you to leave our viewers with some parting words. If you were to speak to a young entrepreneur, someone who's getting their career started, who's feeling some of that anxiety, who's feeling like they're giving it their all, and maybe not seeing the type of return that they feel they should get. So let's paint that scenario. They're at that point of either quitting or doubling down. What sage words of advice do you give someone in that space?
I think that we need to look around in the province that we live in and understand the temperature of the water that we're in. And if we really, truly did that, we'd have another 100 million entrepreneurs in this province, because what's the worst that's going to happen? What's the worst that's going to happen when you buy the billboard that you didn't think you could afford? What's the worst that's going to happen when you hire the employee that you're not quite sure is the right timing yet? Maybe you go broke. Maybe you lose it all. And worst case scenario, you go bankrupt. Okay, start again tomorrow. I don't know how many successful entrepreneurs I know that in the beginning had 2, 3, 4 bankruptcies. There is nothing, like, we don't have debtor's prison.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's going to jail for trying to build a business. If you do it fraudulently, well, you know,
that, yeah.
we see what happens there.
Yeah.
But if you're just really out there and you're trying to give her, right, and you're willing to take that risk, then take the damn risk.
I love that.
Like, what is the worst that could happen?
We've talked about this around our house. We've had, great times. We've struggled, and what we settle on is that if you have a relationship with your family, and you have your health, and you have common sense enough to hold down any type of job, tomorrow I could have a whole other career started, and by the end of the month, enough money put together to pay rent, to get my kids fed, and you know what? If they like me, then that to me is success.
I say this every day on our show. I say hope is greater than fear. That's why I end our show.
Yeah.
We all operate from fear, and when you can bridge over that and get to hope, and the hope is, hey, it's going to work.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to make it work. I got to work extra hours. If you can really truly embrace that hope is so much more powerful than fear, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And I look at you guys. I know a lot of guys that I look up to, and I look up to because this isn't an easy gig. My wife's a realtor, right? Nowhere near as successful as you. And she struggles. It's hard. There's a lot of work involved in it. It's tough.
She works with some really pushy people.
Well, she does. She works with. So I know I could go on forever, but the sage advice is, what's the worst that could happen? Go out and do it.
Yeah.
And when you wake up broke tomorrow, guess what? McDonald's is hiring.
Yeah.
I got an application sits on the corner of my desk for anybody who doesn't want to work hard. Like it's, they're hiring.
That's right.
Not that people at McDonald's don't work hard. I'm going to get in trouble for that, aren't I?
You shouldn't.
No, all I'm saying is that, you know what? You can go do anything here.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't care. I moved back here to Alberta, and I went to work at Save-On, emptying trucks in the middle of the night, and a waiter at lunch, and I moved here with nothing.
Yeah.
Zero. Right?
The guy shoveling my walk maybe tonight or tomorrow was a guy that hustled me.
Absolutely.
I could do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got it.
Sage advice. This is Steph Amensen, and he's an amazing guy. Check out his show. Tell us a bit about when.
Morning messages from the mattress.
Where?
On Instagram.
Okay.
7:40 every morning, but you can watch it, I think, on our story. It's only there 24 hours because it's not that good.
No, it's awesome. You should check it out.
But it's there 24 hours, and so it's at Steph Amensen or at Brand Brandy. And it's really quite cool. You can check out the page on Facebook, Morning Messages from the Mattress.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, real pleasure, man.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, we should do it again. Thanks for being here.
Sounds good, man.
Okay.
Take care.
This has been the Dooryard Union. I'm Courtney Atkinson. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week, Wednesday at 5:30.
I want the studio.
Isn't it awesome?
I want the set.
I know.
Like,
I've got the light.